The silent watchers, the galaxy had grown comfortable with silence from the Sol system. For 500,000 years, the third planet from that yellow star had been nothing more than a footnote in ancient databases. Earth, they called it once. The birth world of a species that had supposedly burned itself out in primitive wars and environmental collapse. Most civilizations had long forgotten humans ever existed. But silence can be deceiving. Deep in the Centauri listening post, sensor operator Crixel of the Vorthok Commonwealth stared at his displays with growing confusion. The four-armed alien had been monitoring deep space communications for over a decade, but what he was seeing made no sense. Ancient transmission patterns were appearing on frequencies that hadn't carried signals for millennia. Commander Zephyrs, Crixel called to his superior, his voice carrying the clicking undertones of his species. "I'm detecting something unusual from the Sol sector." Commander Zephyrs approached, her tall frame casting a shadow over the control panel. The insectoid officer had seen many strange things in her career, but the readings on Crixel's screen made her antennae twitch nervously. "These patterns," she said slowly, "they match the old human communication protocols from the archives." "That's impossible," Crixel replied. "The humans died out 500,000 years ago. Everyone knows that." But the signals were undeniably real. Short, precise bursts of data transmitted in mathematical sequences that spoke of intelligence and purpose. More disturbing still, they seemed to be coordinated across multiple points throughout the Sol system. Within hours, the discovery had reached the highest levels of the Galactic Coalition. In the crystal spires of the Coalition capital on Nexus Prime, emergency sessions were called. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the great assembly hall, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, hums, and telepathic whispers. High Chancellor Mordax, a being whose crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights in rainbow patterns, called for order. "Fellow delegates, we face an unprecedented situation. The Sol system, long considered dead space, is showing signs of coordinated activity." Delegate Thraxis of the Hegemony Worlds slammed his scaled fist on his podium. Impossible. The Coalition's own surveys confirmed that system was lifeless. No breathable atmospheres, no energy signatures, nothing but dead rocks. And yet, Mordax replied, "Our most sensitive equipment is detecting not just signals, but movement. Large-scale movement in the outer system." The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Movement in dead space meant only one thing. Someone had been hiding there. But who could maintain such secrecy for so long? Ambassador Quillith, whose floating form pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, projected her thoughts to the assembly. "Perhaps we should investigate directly. Send a small exploration fleet to determine the source of these anomalies." The motion was approved quickly. Fear and curiosity combined to make the usually cautious Coalition act with unusual speed. Within days, a research fleet of 30 ships was assembled under the command of Admiral Nexter, a veteran explorer known for his careful approach to first contact situations. The fleet departed Nexus Prime with great fanfare, their mission broadcast across the galactic networks. Scientists, diplomats, and military analysts speculated about what they might find. Some hoped for new allies. Others feared ancient weapons left behind by the extinct humans. None of them suspected the truth. As the Coalition fleet approached the edge of the Sol system, their sensors began detecting anomalies. Space itself seemed wrong here. Gravity readings fluctuated without explanation. Energy patterns appeared and vanished like ghosts. Most disturbing of all, Their long-range scanners kept failing to penetrate deeper into the system. "Admiral," reported Chief. "Scanner Vex high. Our instruments are being actively jammed. This isn't natural interference." Admiral Nexa studied the tactical display with growing unease. In his 100 years of exploration, he had never encountered such sophisticated countermeasures. "All ships, reduce speed and maintain formation. We're dealing with technology we don't understand." That's when the voice came. It spoke in perfect coalition standard, broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. The tone was calm, measured, and utterly human. "Coalition fleet, you are entering restricted space. Turn back now." The bridge of Nexa's flagship fell silent. Every officer stared at the communication array as if it might explode. Finally, Nexa found his voice. "This is Admiral Nexa of the Galactic Coalition. Identify yourself. This is Guardian Station Erebus, speaking for Earth Command. You are not welcome here, Earth Command." Nexa's translator struggled with the concept. "But humans are extinct. Your world died millennia ago." A sound came through the speakers that chilled every being on the bridge. It was laughter, human laughter, cold and amused. "Extinct. Admiral, we've been watching you stumble around the galaxy for 500,000 years. Did you really think we were gone?" Before Nexa could respond, his tactical officer shouted in alarm. "Admiral, multiple contacts emerging from stealth." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that would haunt galactic nightmares for generations to come. Ships were materializing around the Coalition fleet. Not small scout vessels or primitive craft, but massive warships that dwarfed anything in the galaxy's combined fleets. They were sleek and angular, their black hulls seeming to absorb light itself. Strange energy patterns coursed along their surfaces like living veins. Most terrifying of all, they moved with predatory grace, sliding through space as if the laws of physics were mere suggestions. "Impossible," whispered Navigator Kelm. "Ships that size should show up on our sensors from light years away, unless—" "They didn't want to be seen," replied the human voice, now tinged with something that might have been pity. "You've spent so long as the dominant species, you forgot what it means to be prey." Admiral Nexa tried to maintain diplomatic protocol even as sweat beaded on his scaled forehead. "We come in peace, seeking understanding. Surely we can negotiate." "Negotiate?" The human voice carried a note of genuine surprise. "Admiral, your coalition has claimed ownership of systems, imposed trade regulations, and established military bases throughout what you call civilized space. Did you ask our permission? Your permission, but you were gone, were we, or did? We simply choose not to interfere while you played at building empires." The largest of the human ships, easily 10 times the size of Nexa's flagship, drifted closer. As it approached, details became visible on its hull. Weapon systems beyond current understanding, shield generators that bent space around them, engines that produced no visible exhaust yet moved the massive vessel as easily as a child's toy. "Admiral," the human voice continued, "allow me to show you something that might help you understand your situation." Without warning, every display screen in the Coalition fleet lit up with the same image. It was Earth, but not as any database had recorded it. The planet was alive with activity. Massive orbital stations surrounded it like a ring of steel. Moon had been hollowed out and converted into a fortress. Even Mars showed signs of extensive terraforming and construction. "For 500,000 years, the voice explained, we've been building. While your ancestors were learning to use fire, We were perfecting technologies you can't even imagine, while you fought your petty wars over resources. We were preparing for the day we would need to remind the galaxy who this space really belongs to. Commander Yileth, the Coalition's chief xenobiologist, stared at the images in fascination and terror. The energy requirements alone should be impossible. How did you hide all this? Simple. We taught you to see what we wanted you to see. Your sensors detect what we allow them to detect. Your surveys found exactly what we programmed them to find. You've been living in an illusion, dancing to music we composed. Admiral Nexa realized the full scope of what they faced. This wasn't first contact with a recovered civilization. This was a revelation that humanity had never truly left the galactic stage. They had been watching, learning, and growing stronger while everyone else assumed they were gone. "What do you want from us?" Nexa asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Want, Admiral? We don't want anything from you. We already have everything we need. The question is what we're going to allow you to keep." The massive human ship began to power up systems that registered on no known spectrum. Energy readings climbed beyond the Coalition's instruments' ability to measure. Around them, the rest of the human fleet took formation with mechanical precision. "You have 1 hour to withdraw from this system and return to your territory," the voice announced. "After that, we will consider your presence an act of war. And if we refuse," Admiral Nexa asked, though he already knew he had no choice, "then you'll discover why the galaxy stayed quiet for so long. And Admiral, when you report back to your Coalition, tell them this: Earth remembers everything. Every slight, every assumption, every moment of arrogance. We've been patient, but our patience has limits." The transmission ended, leaving the Coalition fleet alone in space with the silent watchers. Around them, the human ships waited like hungry wolves, their weapons trained on targets that couldn't hope to fight back. Admiral Nexa gave the only order possible. "All ships, withdraw immediately. Set course for Nexus Prime, maximum speed." As the Coalition fleet fled, one truth became painfully clear. The galaxy had a new master, and it wore a human face. Behind them, hidden in the vast darkness of space, thousands more ships waited in silence. The Watchers had revealed themselves at last, and nothing would ever be the same. Earth had returned to reclaim its birthright, and the stars themselves trembled at what was coming. The storm unleashed news of the Coalition's encounter in the Soul. Systems spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, every major civilization knew that humanity had not only survived, but had been watching them for 500,000 years. The revelation shattered the comfortable assumptions that had governed galactic politics for millennia. On Nexus Prime, the Coalition's Emergency Council convened in permanent session. The great crystal dome that housed their deliberations buzzed with panicked communications from member worlds. Some demanded immediate military action, others called for diplomatic overtures. A few suggested abandoning the galaxy entirely. High Chancellor Mordax stood before the assembly, his crystalline form flickering with stress patterns. "Fellow delegates, we face an unprecedented crisis. The humans have revealed capabilities that exceed our understanding of physics itself." General Vorthan of the Hegemony Worlds rose from his seat, his 6 arms gesturing aggressively. "Capabilities mean nothing without the will to use them. They've shown us ships, yes, but ships can be destroyed. I propose we mobilize the Grand Fleet immediately and attack with what?" demanded Senator Quill of the Trade Federation. "Our most advanced weapons couldn't scratch their hull plating." Admiral Nex's report makes it clear we're dealing with technology centuries ahead of our own. The debate raged for hours until Ambassador Quelith projected her thoughts to the assembly. Perhaps we underestimate them because we still think like conquerors. What if they don't want to rule us? What if they simply want us to acknowledge their sovereignty over their home system? Her words carried the weight of hope. But that hope was about to be shattered. In the depths of space, far from any star, a massive structure materialized from the void. It was a construction dock the size of a moon, its black hull bristling with defensive systems. Inside its cavernous bays, work had been proceeding for centuries on humanity's greatest achievement. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Guardian Station Prometheus, watching as the final components were installed on the fleet's newest edition. The ship before her was beautiful in its terrible simplicity. Every line spoke of purpose. Every system had been designed for one goal: absolute dominance. "Status report, Commander," she said to the officer beside her. Commander Marcus Webb consulted his datapad. "All systems operational, Captain. The Harbinger is ready for deployment. Estimated time to target, 18 hours. Sarah nodded, her expression grim. The Coalition has had their warning. They chose to ignore it. She was referring to the massive military build-up that had begun the moment Admiral Nexa returned to Nexus Prime. Despite their technological disadvantage, the Coalition had decided to assemble the largest fleet in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships from 50 different worlds were converging on the Sol System's border. Captain, Webb continued, intelligence reports indicate they're bringing everything. Dreadnoughts, carrier groups, planet killers. They mean to overwhelm us through sheer numbers. Sarah's smile was cold. Then we'll show them why numbers don't matter. Across the galaxy, Coalition forces gathered like a storm. Admiral Korath, Supreme Commander of the Grand Fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship surveying the assembled Armada. Warships stretched to the horizon in every direction. The combined military might of dozens of civilizations united for the first time in their history. "Impressive sight, isn't it?" said his aide, Colonel Vexai. "It had better be," Korath replied. "If we fail here, there won't be another chance. The humans have been planning this for 500,000 years. We have one shot to prove that evolution still matters." The Grand Fleet moved toward Sol like a metal tide. Their confidence grew with each passing hour. Surely no force, however advanced, could stand against such overwhelming numbers. Their sensors showed the human fleet maintaining position near Earth, seemingly content to wait for the coming battle. They had no idea what was really waiting for them. As the Coalition forces reached the outer edge of the Sol System, space itself began to change around them. Reality warped in ways that made veteran officers question their sanity. Stars seemed to bend, distances became meaningless. Ships that had been light-minutes apart suddenly found themselves side by side. "What's happening?" Admiral Korath demanded, as his navigation officer struggled with readings that made no sense. "Sir, it appears the humans have weaponized space-time itself. They're manipulating the fabric of reality to compress our formation." Before Korath could respond, the human fleet revealed itself. What the Coalition had taken for a small defensive force was merely the tip of an iceberg. Ships materialized from hidden dimensions, emerging from fold space like nightmares made manifest. The human fleet numbered not in hundreds, but in millions. Each vessel was a work of art and terror. Sleek predators that moved through space as if it were their natural element. Their hulls shimmered with energy that seemed to drink light itself. Weapons of incomprehensible design tracked targets with mechanical precision. At the fleet's heart sat the Harbinger, humanity's ultimate expression of military engineering. The ship was less a vessel than a mobile fortress, its bulk dwarfing entire coalition battle groups, systems that had been theoretical when the first human left Earth, now hummed with deadly purpose. The human commander's voice echoed across all frequencies, calm and implacable. Coalition forces, this is Admiral Helena Cross of Earth's command. You have entered human space under arms. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Korath tried to project confidence he didn't feel. This is Admiral Korath of the Galactic Coalition, Grand Fleet. We demand you submit to Coalition authority and surrender your weapons of mass destruction. The response was not words, but action. The human fleet moved as one entity, their coordination beyond anything the Coalition had imagined possible. Weapons that bent physics itself lashed out across impossible distances. Coalition ships, simply, ceased to exist, not destroyed, but unmade at the molecular level. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. Wave after wave of Coalition forces were eliminated with surgical precision. Their shields offered no protection. Their armor provided no defense. Advanced civilizations that had ruled space for millennia found themselves as helpless as children. Admiral Korath watched his proud fleet dissolve around him like smoke. "How is this possible?" he whispered. The answer came from Captain Sarah. Chen, now commanding the Harbinger as it emerged from fold space directly in front of his flagship. "You spent 500,000 years assuming you were the pinnacle of evolution," her voice carried across the void. "We spent that same time proving you wrong." The Harbinger's primary weapon charged with a sound like reality, tearing. Energy readings climbed beyond the Coalition's ability to measure. Space around the massive vessel began to bend and twist. Admiral Korath Sarah continued, "You have one chance. Surrender now, or learn what happens when children play with adults." The Coalition commander looked around at the remains of his mighty fleet. Burning wrecks floated in the void where proud warships had been moments before. His own vessels, systems, were failing as human technology overwhelmed them. He had no choice. "All Coalition forces, this is Admiral Korath. I hereby surrender all commands to Earth authority." The words echoed across the galaxy, carried by human communication systems to every world and station. The age of Coalition dominance was over. In the hours that followed, humanity's terms became clear. The galaxy would continue much as before, but certain rules had changed. No military vessels would enter the Sol system without permission. No claims could be made on systems humanity designated as protected. Most importantly, Earth would have final authority over all matters of galactic security. Some worlds protested. Their complaints were noted and ignored. High Chancellor Mordax, his crystalline form now dim with defeat, addressed the remaining delegates on Nexus Prime. "We underestimated them completely. They didn't just survive their supposed extinction. They used it as camouflage while they became something beyond our understanding." Senator Quill asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens now? The answer came from space itself, as human vessels took position over every major world. Not invading, simply watching, reminding everyone of the new reality. Humanity had returned to claim their place in the galaxy, and that place was at the very top, on Earth, in a command center hidden beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display, showing the galaxy in all its conquered glory. Every star system now showed a human flag, marking humanity's ultimate authority. Status report, she requested. Commander Webb approached with a tablet. All major worlds have acknowledged Earth authority. Resistance movements are minimal and easily contained. The transition of power is proceeding smoothly. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained thoughtful. They still don't understand, do they? They think this was about conquest, wasn't it? Webb asked. No, Sarah replied, turning to gaze at the stars beyond the facility's reinforced windows. This was about coming home. We gave them 500,000 years to prove they could be trusted with the galaxy. They failed. She paused, her voice growing quiet. Now it's time for the adults to take charge. Outside, human ships continued their eternal patrol, silent guardians ensuring that the galaxy's new order would endure. The age of chaos was over. The age of humanity had begun, and in the depths of space, more ships continued to emerge from fold space, revealing that what the galaxy had witnessed was merely the beginning of humanity's true power. The storm had been unleashed, and it would reshape everything in its path.